Hello, and welcome to Soul Talk, where we explore the soul in all things. I'm Nancy, and today I'm joined by Iris, Hazel, and Leslie to talk about what it's like living in two worlds, where the inner world of light and energy is as real as the outer physical world. Let's start by watching a short video by Leslie called Living in Two Worlds.
I do not have a soul. I am a soul, born of light, portal to another world, so deeply silent, charged with exquisite stillness. When I close my eyes, a web of energy streams across the back of my eyelids. I, the soul, step through to follow the lines of the heart into crisscrossing gossamer, singing with life, gazing into beyond. When I open my eyes, still there the ornamental cherry tree, crowned with a new green halo of sprouting spring leaves, growing into the spaces left after pink blossom fall. It pulsates with life, with sunshine and birds. I am in two worlds.
When I see the video, I see one world. I see, the inner world of radiance from your heart, and you're one with your reality of beauty, and I see two faces at the end, but I don't see two worlds.
Mm.
I just see one world of your inner realm. It's beautiful.
Mm. Well, I suppose the birds in the cherry tree, that they belong to the outer world. And perhaps if I can tell you about the experience I had that prompted me to firstly write the poem, and then I was motivated to create a video to try to um, create an image that helps people identify with the feelings that I had and the actual experience I went through. Um, so actually, it just starts in a very mundane way. I was doing the housework, and I've got a lovely back veranda, and it's surrounded by trees and so on. And there's always lots of birds. And I was probably doing a bit of task avoidance, and I went and sat on the back veranda, and it was spring. So, that time of year, it's always lovely to be outside. And watching the birds in the tree there, and then I just closed my eyes, and then, as in the video, I was just in a completely different world, and it was sort of a world of energy and light, and the heart expands. And I think I identify that as like the world of the soul, where everything seems to be connected, that I'm aware of the energetic underlying network of all things. And it was just a completely immersive experience. And a couple of times I thought, oh, this is really interesting. What's going on here? And I'd open my eyes, and yes, the physical world, it's still there. I would close my eyes again, and I was immediately back in this subtle, energetic world. And eventually I opened my eyes and just was watching the birds again. But somehow after that, everything around me was just newly imbued with a kind of livingness and energy. And it just made me realize that the inner world is it's just as real as the outer world, and that's like they're interpenetrating, and that they both exist simultaneously, and that we can experience both of them. Um, so that was the story of that poem, and the video, why I made that video. I wanted to try and evoke that experience in others when they watched it. Don't know if it's successful, but that was my intention anyway. Mm.
Oh, yeah, I think it was successful very much. To
Mm.
me, it was like, this person is from the angelic realm,
Yeah.
and because it was very, well, angelic.
Mm. Well, I think we all are really, and that's part of the message as well, that,
Hmm.
we are all souls, and through identification with our soul, if we experience the world through the eyes of our soul, we also can experience that. I do believe that. Mm.
I could really relate to what you were to your video, because for me, I think of the soul as the observer.
Mm.
It's that part that you're aware, you're in the world, and then I flip to being the observer,
Mm.
and things form and conversations and things take on a different perspective instead of me actually just being consciously in there as a participant. When I'm the observer, it's like there's a oneness with everything,
Mm.
and I feel part of everything. And it connects with the heart too, because it's a feeling. It's not just thought. It's not the mind. It's really beyond. It's consciousness, I think.
Mm.
And it's beyond the mind. It utilizes it in a way with the heart, as I understand it. But and it's kind of awakening. We talk about awakening to the soul. It's like, for me, it's awakening to consciousness, to being conscious, and that consciousness is, like I said before, a oneness with it's like you have a soul, I have a soul, but I see it more as like one, only it's just coming into my body through my mind, through my heart, differently than it is yours and Hazel and Nancy's. But I feel like it's one. It's a way for me to identify with oneness.
Mm.
I'll
Yeah,
stop
yeah.
here because
I like that. I can really relate to that because it's true. I think that's really what makes it so relatable. But I do think of the soul as the consciousness and the observer.
What did you
And
say you do think of it as that?
yes, as consciousness or the observer, whichever you
Uh-huh.
wish to call it. And it's interesting. I was reading a book, The Spirituality of Physics or The Physics of Spirituality. I can't remember the title, but it was an attempt to explain quantum physics in terms of spiritual traditions or beliefs, more beliefs than traditions.
Mm.
And one of the things that the author points out is that in order for something to precipitate out of the quantum field, there has to be the observer.
Mm. Mm.
And it was like that just opened up a whole new world because all of a sudden I realized how we create our worlds, our lives. And it just made sense to me that I always like it when I can find something scientific because it grounds it for me.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes, it
Well,
does help you step back and think about it from a different perspective. And you know, quantum physics is it's like a subtle art almost, isn't it? It goes outside of the realms of, you know,
Mhm.
observing atoms or seeing things happen in a physical, almost mechanical universe into a
Right.
very subtle universe. Yeah.
To me, it's a doorway. I mean, there have been several books written physics for non-scientists because I'm certainly not a scientist. But I just find those kind of books take me into that world
Mm.
and make it far more easy for me to understand things. But to get back to the idea of the dual existence,
Mm.
one of the things I notice along the way is observing while participating, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
And all of a sudden, sometimes I just shut my mouth because it's like, oops, not doing this right. You pull back. But there is this dual consciousness. You're participating with other people in the three-dimensional world, but there is an awareness of whether or not you're doing it right. And it helps guide us through our day.
what do you mean by doing it right?
Oh, just like you might, well, okay, I'm in my 80s. One of the things I was born to learn was tact. And so as a young woman, I was, oh, I'm not doing this right. This is not a tactful way to accomplish something I'm doing. You know, it's just very practical things like that. That,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And,
Well, that's the personality. That's the personality, isn't it? Um,
yeah,
and the soul doesn't do anything wrong ever. The soul is
right,
beyond all that.
right.
Yeah,
But
but
it can tell the personality for sure
Mm.
when you're doing
yeah.
something correctly. And the other thing I find is like Leslie, but I'm less visual than Leslie. I will just have ideas pop into my head of the idea. Oh, this was like a long time ago. I was sitting out admiring a lilac bush in my backyard. And all of a sudden, I knew I was a cell in the body of Earth. And I just knew that. And that kind of thing happens that I call living in two worlds.
Mm.
You mean it just dropped in your head at that
Yeah,
moment?
just
Uh-huh.
completely. Oh, and I knew it and it made sense and
Uh-huh.
I've never doubted it,
Mhm.
And,
Yeah.
and this
Yeah.
long before I had read anything that would suggest that. So it was that kind of thing.
Well, that's interesting. I guess I take this whole idea much more literally than any of you because to me, two worlds. There's the outer world, which is very definitely the world I see outside, the world I see with my outer eyes, and then there's the inner world, the world that I feel. It's a world that's very real to me inside. I came across this quote from the Bible, from the Ephesians, if I've said that right, 1:18. We have two sets of eyes, those in our head and those in our heart.
Mhm.
And oh, that's tremendously meaningful to me because um, if I'm in a situation, I mean, it made me think of one particularly when I was being verbally attacked by somebody who was very upset. This was somebody who was close to me, who I cared about. And my first inclination was, get away from me. Just I don't want to hear it. And I started to, to block myself. But then I looked at her and I saw she was in a lot of pain. She was suffering. So I got my focus off myself about what I was feeling. And I put my consciousness into her, felt her energy, and I immediately changed. And I said something soothing. I became one with her. I won't say that I saw her soul, but it was a soul thing where you feel the compassion, and it's an energetic connection with another human being, and you just want to, you know, soothe them in whatever way you can. It immediately stopped her. She saw that I was with her. I mean, it's like we were breathing together. And her upsetness, her anger vanished. And it was, and it was so easy. And it's like getting on somebody else's wavelength when you don't need to be in your ego, when you don't need to prove anything. So I went into her, we were in the outer world. I might say that I joined her in her inner world so that we became one, and then it transformed. And that's how I kind of see the difference between what's outside and what you feel inside. You know what I mean?
What I hear when you tell that story is that you were your soul. You were reaching out to her as a soul, and she responded. Her soul responded to you, and I think the soul is about connection. It's about compassion. It's about love, acceptance. And that's a perfect illustration of that. And that kind of slight stepping back from the situation meant that it wasn't an emotional reaction on your part. It was a loving acceptance of where she was at. And to me, they're the qualities of the soul that, that I certainly aspire to. Obviously, I can't achieve it all the time, but that's what I see, the soul energy, the soul in action. Yeah. I actually had a similar experience. I was in the railway station in the city, Central Railway in Sydney, and quite late at night had agreed to pick my daughter and her partner up. They were coming home from a trip to England, and because I can't tolerate driving to the airport, it's just too confusing for me. Our compromise was I would drive to Central Station and they would catch the train, which is close, and then I drive them home. Anyway, I'm sitting in this train station, which was quite late at night. It's quite busy, and just sitting on some benches. And I noticed there were quite a lot of benches, and half of them were taken up with homeless people. And anyway, I'm sitting there. There's a couple of other ladies next to me chatting. And this homeless man started walking along, and he was ranting and raving and a little bit scary. And he ended up coming right in front of me and these two ladies. And they immediately stopped talking and sort of looked at each other and was like, oh, what are we going to do? But then I turned to this fellow and I just looked at his face. And all of a sudden, my heart just opened up, and all this love, this just streamed out towards him. It's like it was enveloping him. And he stopped ranting and he looked at me and he said, you just have a good day. You have a good day. And he walked off. It was really interesting.
Wow.
And
Wonderful.
Beautiful.
I just thought, that's another illustration of what you're talking about, Nancy, of it's so transformative, and it's not your mental capacity analyzing and working out what to do. It's not an emotional shock and get away from me. It's just this quality that comes out. And unexpectedly. So it just shows what's possible. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think
Right.
once we accept that we're energy beings,
Mm.
and that other people pick up our energy, and then we become aware of the energy that we're putting out there,
Mm.
and we're receptive to other people's energies. Sometimes it's difficult if you're too aware of other people's energies, and you have to sort of create some kind of shield around yourself if you're in a place. But when you're very susceptible and open, but it's about being aware of your own heart, and and when you are, then you notice you can just automatically ping into the other person's heart, and they feel it. And because we're all connected on that level.
Mhm.
That's right. And that's what the other world is. Like the physical world, to me, is often a world of separation and difference, and people not, separating yourself from others. And whereas the inner world is a world of oneness and unity and connection and relationship. And nobody is separate there. And so I think, the relationships in that world then flow accordingly, because there's a kind of respect for everything, because you realize you're all part of one whole. And yeah.
You're so right. In your video, sometimes, I look at something like that and I think, yeah, that's beautiful, all right. But that's not the world I see out my window. Or, when I walk along the streets, and there's so much suffering and hardness and heaviness and
Mm.
density, and so, you know, um, it takes an effort and a consciousness to remember that the light is always, always there as well. You seem to be very connected to the light in everything, and it's
Well,
behind your eyelids, and
it's coming to me. But I
On your
think that
face.
we share that light. If we're aware of it, and we know it's there and it's real, then we become distributors of that. And I think people pick it up, even though it might just be at a subtle level. I think that can have an impact on people and the environment.
Mhm.
I agree.
It's like in urban setting, which I'm in as well. It's like you can either look at the gutter and look at all the trash on the sidewalks that
Mm.
collects and things like that, or you can look at the sun shining through the trees that's bright and warm and feeling that. And so it's like I have this habit of trying to say a few words to whoever I'm, whether I'm at the grocery store or the bank or whoever I'm having some kind of interaction with. And it's like the difference between looking at their facade, their personality, and that, or whether you're through love, you make a soul connection with their heart. And for me, it's a great joy. And I think it is for them as well. We lift each other up when there's a connection, just to say something that might, how's your day? Even just acknowledging a wait person, a server, or something like that. Sometimes to ask them how they are gives them a big lift.
Mm.
But because they're so used to being just seen as a server, so many people ignore these people when they're human beings. And yeah, we often have wonderful little exchanges that I carry with me.
Mm.
I notice even a smile in the grocery
Mhm.
store. Look someone in, you just look them in the eye and smile, and it's like you made their day.
Yeah, I know. It's not much sometimes.
I know, because we're just expressing our humanity. That's all. you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But what Leslie said about how she just opened her heart with
Yeah.
love, I mean, we have such potential for healing in the world, because it's limitless. I think our love can go, it goes round the world. There's nothing stopping it except our
Yeah.
mind. If we, you know, don't envision it, don't believe it, don't, at least that's the way I feel. And I figured, well, why not just do it? Just do it. And, you know, because
Because
I
you can.
believe it. What?
Well, you have,
Because you can.
Yeah, because you can, nothing to lose. There's nothing to lose by doing it.
right. But you, Iris, and you, Leslie, and Hazel, you're connected to your inner world. Am I right? I mean, you feel that connection to your heart. You're connected to your inner world. Whereas a lot of people are not. It's like what you see is what you get. You know,
Mhm.
they just have the outer eyes and they know about the heart and all that, but maybe they only save their heart feelings for their loved ones. And
Mm.
they feel compassion for, you know, the victims of this plane crash, but they don't have an inner world going on, you know? And I think that it's very important, you know. I mean, we meditate, or we, you know, we have our creative work, or but it's very important for us to get it to be in touch with our inner self, our deep self, in order to be able to relate to other people on that soul level, and to also to know what's true. We have to know what's true to ourselves on a deep knowing level, which only comes from, you know, heart knowledge. It's, you know, brain knowledge is
Experience.
great. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because I
Sometimes,
studied. Oh, go ahead,
sorry.
Leslie. Go ahead.
I sometimes wonder whether people have these experiences, and because they don't have the language to articulate what happened, they don't necessarily define it as we are doing today. And yet that spark is still there. And, you know, it can only
Yes.
ever grow. And when the time is right, perhaps, because I do think it does take some discipline to meditate, perhaps, or whatever it is that helps you create a connection to the soul. That it's through practice. It's I don't know if can be taken for granted or be a given. That I think that, well, for me, I suppose I can only talk about my experience, that, you know, through regular meditation, through creating a sense of stillness and quiet, that it helps open the door to connecting with the soul and identifying with the soul. And it does take a bit of discipline. It's not just something that can easily, I don't think, for me anyway, has been easily attained. It's been over years and regular practice, and through being intentional about it and having these experiences, which I suppose creates an impetus to continue. You know, it gives insights and to continue on in that journey. It is a
Mhm.
journey, I think.
Right. I think if we also call it the inner being, because all children, um, they have an inner world going on.
Mm.
So if we, you know, I mean, a word like the soul, we might not hear until we're older, maybe adolescents. I don't know. I don't think it has that much meaning if you're a child, but you definitely have a sense as a very young child of having an inner world, because
Mhm.
we're all born with it. And children have to be coaxed out of their inner world by their grown-ups. Come on, be in the group. Come on, we're, you know, pay attention now, because they want to stay in their own world. So it's a matter of coming out of our inner world into the, you know, world at large. But then we have to find our place in it. And but I think if we call it the inner world, you know, I mean, we hear the the soul through music and dance and um, paying attention to your having self-reflection and uh, just being aware of yourself as a person. Yeah, I mean, these are all things about, growing up and becoming, you know,
And I think there are many pathways, like, you know, being out in nature, seeing beauty through art, through dance, through poetry. I think there are many pathways to listening to the soul, for the soul to be heard through dreams for some people, through meditation. It's not one pathway.
no, definitely not. Definitely not.
Well,
Yeah.
I grew up in the church, and so I've heard the soul mentioned so many times. And then I began studying, reading lots and lots of books about the soul. And so I had a sense intellectually of what it was. But it wasn't until this one group that I joined that I began to, I experienced it for what it, for what, well, I was able to identify it, let's say that, because I had heard other people talking about it, much like we're doing. And then I found it was a little different for one person and another, and for me, and for, and then I began to realize and identify these heartfelt feelings of love and joy and connections that are what we call the soul. I think you're so right, Leslie. A lot of people have these things, but don't know what, don't call them or identify them with the word soul.
I think you mentioned something that's sometimes overlooked in the list of soul, and that is connection.
Mm,
Think of
mm,
compassion and love and
mm,
a lot of
mm.
things that you can share, but connection is a togetherness that you become aware of.
Mhm. I just got chills on that, Hazel. So you connected with me.
And it doesn't even have to be with other human beings. It can be, with animals, with nature. Can I tell you about another
Please.
experience I had? I was going on a bushwalk with my sisters, and it's one of our favorite bushwalks, Bomaderry Creek. And we're walking along the track, and it's a very old bush, and it's full of these huge old trees. And there was one particularly large, magnificent tree, and my sisters were walking ahead, and I just got distracted and walked into the bush, and I just put my hand on this really old big tree. And all of a sudden, I'd felt like I was just plugged into this network. And I turned around and was looking at the bush. And it's like all the trees that were the same species as this, I think it was maybe a red gum or something. All the red gums, I could see every single red gum in the bush around me. And it's like they were lit up. And I thought, this is what the tree consciousness is, that the tree knows where all the other trees like it are, and they're just so connected. And it's like all of a sudden it was a wholeness, a totality. I wasn't a separate entity anymore walking through the bush. I was part of that connectedness of everything all, and my consciousness was like everywhere all at once type of consciousness. Oh gee, it was a fascinating experience. And I just thought, even with trees have this awareness of like it's an energetic awareness. They're part of the energy of life. And so are we. And, you know, it's just that when I talk about my outside eyes and my inside eyes. You know, when I use my outside eyes, I see that, you know, I'm here, the chair's there, the bed's there, and so on, and we're all separate. But when I use my inside eyes, everything, we're all just connected and we're all energy. And it's like in the video, the energy just constantly moves and flows within everything. Yeah. So it's not just people you can be connected to, it's, you know, plants and animals and everything, really.
Like
The very ground that you
Yeah,
walk on, or the water that you're swimming in or drinking or splashing in.
exactly.
I know, It's wonderful. It's wonderful. Well, this has been a wonderful talk. And thank you for watching. We'd love to hear your thoughts. So feel free to leave share in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you.
thank you.